I'm a first home buyer. Where do I start? Yeah, that was pretty much the flavor of a question that I got asked this week. It read like this. Jayden, I'm a first home buyer. What are my options? And it's a fair question. There's so much stuff on the internet. It's like, well, where do you start and what are your options? So in this video, I'm gonna break down my first home buyer's checklist. It's all the stuff that you need to cover before you actually start looking at places, including something around postcodes that you might find pretty surprising. All right, let's jump right in. So as you probably already realized, buying your first home can feel like a pretty daunting experience. There's just so much stuff online. It's overwhelming. There's articles that talk about American markets. There's people that talk about different states. And you're just like, well, what do I actually do? So today we're gonna break down my first home buyer's checklist. It's all the stuff that you need to tick off and cover to make sure that you're ready to buy your first home now. All right, so number one is your deposit. Without a deposit, it can be pretty tough to get a home. Now there's a couple ways around this. Either you need to have saved up about 8 to 10% of the purchase price to buy a property, or you can look at a guarantor home loan. We've covered this in another video, so you can check it out below. But in effect, you need to have at least 5% saved for, say, your bank deposit. That generally needs to be in your account for at least 3 months to be considered genuine savings. Again, we've covered that in another video. I'll leave a link below. Then you need about 3% to cover your other costs. So like your conveyancer, sometimes you might pay a bit of stamp duty depending on the purchase price and the state that you live in. So all up, you need about 8% deposit. So say if you're buying something for about $500,000, you're gonna need about $40,000 in cash savings, assuming you're not doing a guarantor loan to buy a place. The second thing to check around your deposit is if you qualify for the first homeowner's grant. Now again, it depends on the state you live in. In Queensland, for example, you only get the first homeowner's grant on brand new properties that people haven't lived in. In different states, it's a similar situation. And the third thing to check is, like I mentioned with guarantor loans, do you qualify for a guarantor loan? Have you got parents or someone that can help you out and give you a bit of a leg up with your deposit? So number one, deposit. You tick that, let's move on to number two. Number two is your credit history. Now in Australia, it's pretty different for first home buyers. It's not like in America where you need to go and get a credit card to build up a credit history, but you need to make sure there's nothing adverse on there or anything bad. So a common one is people have forgotten about power bills. Maybe you had like an old credit card that you forgot about, or like an old phone plan that can come back to haunt you and you might have forgotten to pay it, and it can completely derail your home buying journey. Other black marks on your credit history are applying for multiple applications in a short period. So I had it the other day for John, who I was helping out with, who basically applied for 3 credit cards in a short period, within the space of a month. That can really affect your credit history and also your credit score, because the banks go, well, why'd you apply for 3 credit cards in the space of a month? Did they knock you back? Is there an issue there? And it can really affect you. So point number two, check your credit file. You can get it at Vita or Equifax online. You can get one free one a year, so it's pretty easy to check out and make sure there's nothing bad on there. The third item on our home buying checklist is your character. Now it sounds a bit funny, but the banks actually take into consideration things like how long you've been in your job. Have you had stable employment for the last 2 years? And if not, have there been any big gaps in between? You might have gone on a holiday. And it's just about explaining this and telling them, well, I took 3 months off, relax bank. But you need to cover this off. If you've had big gaps in employment, there needs to be a fair reason. It can't just be because I couldn't get a job or that sort of stuff. The second item that the banks actually do consider is the fact that you've lived at the same address for at least 2 years or have a reasonable history of where you've lived. So it can be tough if you've lived in share houses, moved around a lot. In some cases, I'll go back as far as giving 5 years history of where you've lived to show the banks kind of, well, this is what's happened. You're looking at buying a home now and you're settling down, and it can help just build up a bit of a story and say, well, that makes sense. You were young, you went to uni, you studied somewhere, you moved somewhere for work. You know, it's just building that story around your character, and that you're going to be a good risk to the bank to lend you the money to buy your home. The fourth item on my first home buyer's checklist is get together all your home loan documents. Now, if you're like most people, paperwork kind of sucks and you might not be super organized. I guess at least with email and digital documents, a little bit easier these days, but generally you're going to need your 2 most recent pay slips, your most recent year's PAYG or group certificate summary, 3 months of your transaction statements, so your day-to-day bank statements showing where your income goes in and kind of your living expenses, and your ID.
Wait, you changed your name to McLovin?
It's generally not too complicated if you just receive a salary and the bank can use your payslips to verify your income. If you get bonuses or overtime and salary sacrifice, you might need a few extra documents, but your mortgage broker can help you through that process. The fifth item on your home buying checklist is making sure that the property you're looking at is going to be acceptable to the bank. Now, number one is the banks have certain blacklisted postcodes. These can be inner city suburbs, high density locations where there might be lots of apartments, and the banks take a bit of a view that, oh, these might be riskier, and it can be fine. You can still get financed, but your existing bank might not allow that. So just double check with your mortgage broker the areas that you're looking aren't in high risk postcodes. Number two, in checking that the property is acceptable to the bank, is making sure it's not prone to bushfires or flooding. So you can definitely check this online. You also want to make sure that it's also potentially going to cost you more in insurance. So it is definitely one that you want to check up front and make sure it ticks all your boxes before you start going out and making offers on properties. And the last item on the first home buying checklist is get your team together. Get in touch with a mortgage broker like us to help you out with your home loan and make sure that the banks will lend you the money based on all the checklists that we've just gone through. The second thing you want to do is get a solicitor or conveyancer on board and just know who you're going to talk to, because when you make your offer, it always looks better having a solicitor or conveyancer noted. It shows you a bit more organized than if you just make an offer and you're like, I'll let you know who I'm going to use later. And the third one, which I guess would work if you're a property investor, is have your accountant on board. So they might tell you on how to structure the property, if you're going to buy in a different entity, that sort of stuff. If you're buying your first home, it's probably not as important. So that's it. That's my first home buyer's checklist. I think the one that slips up most people is the deposit. So just make sure you got enough money there. You know, it's all good and well having your 8%, but you still want a bit of a buffer there, because when you move in, you're ultimately going to have to pay for moving trucks. You want to buy some new furniture, you probably get a new fridge, that sort of stuff, and you're going to need a few $1,000s left over. Then also you want to have a bit of a buffer for your payment. So definitely keep that in mind. So that's it for today, guys. If you need help buying your first home, and want to chat to someone about finance, hit us up at huntergalloway.com.au, or if you've got any questions or comments, leave them below. See ya.